Ni hao, and welcome back to Vox Terra. Today's show, I would like to comment on, analyze, break down the comment sections at some YouTube videos I've witnessed regarding the flooding we are now experiencing, we as in humanity, more and more. Specifically, we want to consider the comment sections regarding floods when they occur in places that are other than China or California. Now, this study I did here that I'm presenting to you is not one that I did quantifiable research on with a lot of number crunching. Rather, it is what we would call anecdotal. And anecdotal samples can easily be skewed. But my fine feathered friend, I believe you will find that my take on the comment sections will largely conform to your own experience. Now, a super helpful analysis for any of us to run is what economic interests, what political interests are wittingly or unwittingly being served by the comments expressed. So in videos I've seen posted where the flooding is in places other than California or China, the comments will often break down into climate denying, thoughts and prayers, God's wrath, chemtrails, big government conspiracies, and a few comments mentioning climate change, or better yet, even explaining the fossil fuel driven connection between the excessive burning of fossil fuels, the addition of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, like carbon dioxide and methane, the heating of our planet, and the subsequent increasing in flooding as well as other extreme weather events. But now, if these videos are featuring floods in California or China, I will see the same general litany of comments, but I will see hostility aimed at Californians, Democrats in particular. I saw one commentator saying something like he wishes that Democrat, is what he said, would have gotten drowned against Gavin Newsom and so on. In the case of China, the comments are even more hateful. So what interests are being served? Well, let's think about California in terms of its environmental politics. California has a reputation for being a state that has more stringent pollution standards. Underreported in the media, California was involved in lawsuits with the Trump administration because California dared to want to have higher or stricter auto fuel efficiency standards than did the Trump administration. So what interest is being served here by attacking the so-called Democrats of California? Well, you are now distracting from the fact that California has those higher standards, from the fact that lower standards result in the more excessive burning of fossil fuels, from all of the fossil fuel money that was flowing towards Trump and his defense of that industry and his opening for ever more and more drilling. But it really distracts in general from the influence of fossil fuels in our politics, including to a much lesser extent, but still in the Democratic Party as well. Now, in my humble opinion, demonizing China plays a similar function, wittingly or unwittingly. As I said before, I've heard China used as an excuse not to curb our own pollution emissions going back to the 1990s. Well, back then, China was a much smaller contributor than it is now, and only coming online as a capitalist powerhouse based on a negotiation made with Richard Nixon to get China to open up to capitalism in exchange for acknowledging a one China policy, meaning one day Taiwan would return to China. Well, that was the bargain struck for China to enter the capitalist markets. But constant China bashing, not only does it distract from change at home, I just think about it. All these talks we hear about trade wars and so forth, and China isn't buying enough wheat or soy from the U.S. Is that wheat and soy being sprayed with toxic pesticides, thus poisoning the people in the USA, yet the people in the USA being taught by their media and politicians to clamor for better trade with China so they can sell them more of this product that is actually poisoning them. But this constant China bashing also creates a hostile mood towards people who look Asian within the English-speaking world. And what interest does that serve? It also serves to benefit what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex, meaning that rotating door between private arms manufacturers and our government. And as I've cited for you before, their ties to those weapons industries are generally not highlighted. And to wit, the Cold War with China is justifying much more arms purchases. It's also being used to justify the expansion of the US's military presence in Asia. Well, what will the result of that be? The result of that will be China then feeling more threatened and having to expand its own military. Now, does it sound to you like that's a situation conducive towards lowering greenhouse gas emissions? Or will then the hardliners within China say, look, they are competing for survival with the United States and cannot afford to cut their emissions? Well, what about chemtrails, often brought up? Well, look, I'm not going to get into whether they are real or not, but just to say this. Regardless, the excessive burning of fossil fuels does create greenhouse gases, which in turn alter our weather. We are dumping billions of tons of greenhouse gases by all of this racing around on an annual basis. So if one is highlighting chemtrails but ignoring the role of the fossil fuel industry, what interest does that serve? Now, I failed to mention another talking point is often government conspiracies, that somehow climate change is part of a large government conspiracy. Well, look, these are capitalist democracies we are talking about, which are influenced by all sorts of business interests. There is no getting around that unless you are opposing capitalism or you are advocating for a return to stronger rules separating capitalism and state. But if you are not, I would highlight the fact that it's more likely the conspiracy is running in the other direction, meaning fossil fuels, petrochemicals are historically extremely wealthy, powerful industries with loads of influence in our government and in our media. I hope you get a chance to watch my video on Steven Donziger, the attorney who successfully sued Chevron over its devastation in the Amazon and has been under house arrest and was recently moved to prison. Now, this story can be cited to Amnesty International, the American Lawyers Guild, I believe they're called, and many credible news sources, yet it's hardly reported. So if somebody is listening to someone who claims they are up against some big system, like I imagine Tucker Carlson to advocate himself, or I imagine Alex Jones to advocate himself, or Steve Bannon, or any of them, if they are not highlighting the power of the petrochemical fossil fuel industries, then what conspiracy are they really talking about, and what conspiracy are they really distracting from? Well, I hope you found this analysis of YouTube comments below flood videos interesting, thought-provoking or provoking, and helpful. If you did, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel. You've clicked that notification bell, and until next time, peace be with you.